What's up guys, welcome to this review of Carnival Row Season 1 on Amazon Prime. It's a little later than I wanted it to be, for reasons I'm not going to dive into, but I've just had problems getting through this show. And straight into it, what did I think of this show? It's not good. I suppose it's okay at best. There are some things I liked about it, but for the most part this show just doesn't really work out that well. What it's about is essentially in a world where mythical, fantastical creatures like fairies and pucks live alongside humans. There's a steampunk kind of Victorian setting to it all, and there's rampant racism and xenophobia going around, lots of immigration, there's war and past history coming into things, and of course humans, not very nice people in this show. And to top it all off, in the location of the show, Carnival Row, there happens to be a murderer on the loose, and Orlando Bloom, as the detective, is investigating that. So right off the bat, I'm going to get into what I really liked about this show. And that is the actual history, the lore of the whole show, the location, the design of it, the props, the costumes, all that is brilliant. This is a really good looking show, and they've clearly developed a history and a backstory for it that's fascinating. There's a lot of war talk about things that have happened in the past. There's a full episode that focuses on a flashback, and there's clearly stuff that's happened that's made the characters the way they are. The problem is we don't really find out too much about it, and that's disappointing. But the actual look of the show, the location is well realised. It's a fascinating world that they've made, and I just want to find out more and more about this world that they've made. And while I've talked about the storyline so far with the murderer, there's actually two kind of central storylines going on, two main central storylines. The one is, of course, the murder investigation. It's not the most original or enticing or interesting thing in there. It is just a pretty typical murder mystery. But then you've also got the central relationship between Orlando Bloom's character and Cara Delevingne, which is a more romantic storyline where there is history between them, which I'm not going to dive into, that's spoilers. But that's way more interesting than the murder mystery, I thought. Then you have got some supporting storylines here and there, which take up a lot of screen time, and the problem with these is that they never feel all that important. They never delve into the actual main storylines going on. It's not until like the very last episode where one of them actually, you figure out why that's relevant, why that's important, and the way in which it becomes relevant and important is so on the nose and obvious and predictable that it just kind of ruins that whole storyline for me. The main storylines, one's not great, one's better than the other. The other storylines just feel like they're there for the sake of being there for the most part. And one of the more annoying things about this is the themes and the messages. So it does touch on equality and immigration and racism and all that stuff, but it does so in a really on the nose, less than subtle manner. It's practically shoving it down your throat, all the messages that it wants. And yeah, these are important messages, important themes and relevant themes, so maybe they kind of have to, in a way, to shove it down your throat. Maybe that's a good thing that they're trying to get their point across, but it feels like really forced. It feels really aggressive in the way in which it's trying to tell you these things. And quite frankly, that's not really how you should tell a story. But another one of the biggest problems is that this show is trying to establish itself as one with twists and turns and surprises, but the problem is it never gives you enough alternate possibilities so that when twists and turns and surprises come up, there is really only one answer. And I've touched on this a little bit, but one of the storylines, for example, feels totally departed from everything else that's going on in this show until the very last episode, and then all of a sudden there's only one way in which this storyline can actually be relevant, and guess what, that is how it becomes relevant. And it's so disappointing, so predictable and annoying that that's how they made it relevant. But it's very predictable, they're poorly executed, there's a lot of unnecessary elements in here, and because of that I think the final episode is actually the worst episode of the whole season, because it's meant to be building up to this huge moment, this huge event where you're going to get all the answers, all the reveals. But the problem is there's just no excitement behind it, because you already know the answers, or at least you should do, because there's only really one possible answer for most of these questions. And why would you establish a mystery where there is only one suspect? It's annoying. And what's really frustrating is that I thought the show had a lot of great potential. There's a lot of really good stuff going on there. I think the acting's pretty good. The characters aren't great by any means, but they're there. There's something to them. The location is fascinating. The world is fascinating. It's just everything that they've been given, the story and the characters inhabiting this world and what's going on, doesn't quite live up to it. And maybe they'll get that right in season 2, I don't know. But to touch on the characters, Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne are the only characters in the show that feel fully developed and real. The rest are all really pretty stereotypical, one note throughout the entire show. And it's saying something when you got Indira Varma and Jared Harris, 2 great actors in there, and they're given such bland characters and roles. They're just, one's just a very stereotypical politician who's looking for power and so on, and the other's a woman who's looking out for her family, number one, and she just wants what's hers, and it's so on the nose, so unoriginal, and it's frustrating and annoying that these 2 great actors have been reduced to this. And there are some other supporting characters who are fair better than what they do, but again, the storylines that they're being saddled with just aren't all that original or interesting. Chances are you've seen a TV show that does the exact same storyline. The only difference here is that it's a bit more fantastical and more moody and period set. And it also doesn't help that some of the dialogue feels a little cheesy and stilted at times. Again, it's trying to adhere to the setting. There's a lot of like Cockney accents going on here. It's clearly trying to be like a steampunk Victorian London kind of thing. So that kind of makes up for some of it a bit. But again, some of it just comes across as a little cringeworthy. Especially if you are from like the UK and you listen to these accents, and some of them feel really forced and unnatural at times. But the acting is actually pretty good. It's just the shame that the characters and the dialogue aren't representative of the actual people playing them. But to touch on the production, this is where the show really shines. I've already said this. Brilliant cinematography, sets, props, costumes, all that's absolutely brilliant. Great CGI and special effects in there too. And I would say 8 episodes, which is what this season is. Most of them are about 50 minutes long, some are a little longer. That's a perfect length of time for this show. Perhaps this show in particular could have done with maybe 2 less episodes and really just trimmed out some of the fat. Some of the side stories could have went or just got narrowed down and more focused. That would have benefited this show a bit. And I think it's saying something where one episode, which is an entire episode focused on a flashback, completely removed from everything else that's going on. That one episode's the best episode of this whole season. So, yeah, that's probably saying something. But yeah, that's what I thought Carnival Row. It's not good. I'm not going to say it's bad by any means either. It's just okay. It's closer to being bad than it is to being good. I do think there's a lot of great potential in there. The actors are good. The characters are starting to get there by the end of the season. They're feeling a bit more fleshed out. Orlando Bloom and Cara Delevingne, I like them. I like their relationship. The world, I think, is brilliant and fascinating. I want to see more of it. But the actual storylines and the characters are so unoriginal, so predictable, and lacking that it's really letting the show down. And I'm going to go into spoilers now. So if you haven't seen Carnival Row Season 1, go back, watch that, come back, watch the rest of this. But if you are going to leave, you can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at @the_Grant Burton. Most importantly though, subscribe to my channel. The more subscribers I get, the more content I can make, and we all love that content. So, you can also give me a thumbs up, why not? And leave comments and feedback down below. Let me know what you thought of Carnival Row. But you've been warned now, full spoilers. So one of the big disappointments I mentioned was the twists and the turns in the finale. So the twists and turns in the finale is that the politician character, played by Jared Harris, turns out to be Orlando Bloom's father. Of course he did. Why else was he in this show? His whole storyline up to that point felt so departed from everything else going on that he had to be of some importance, some significance, and this was the only way in which he could fit into things. Same goes with Indira Varma's character. Why was she in this show for so long? Why was her storyline so departed from everything else going on? It's because she had to be relevant for this final moment. And because they didn't establish any other suspects or possibilities, it had to be them. They were the only characters who had nothing to do, so it had to be them that was responsible for one, the murder, and two, Orlando Bloom's origins. So it's annoying that they didn't bother to establish more of a mystery surrounding it to make it more surprising, and yeah, it feels like a really wasted opportunity. And as for where the show leaves off, it looks like season 2's perhaps going to be focusing more on a larger division between the humans and the fairy tale creatures and so on. They have kind of separated them and cornered off Carnival Row. That's interesting. It looks like it might be getting more darker and more serious, perhaps touching on some more historical elements that have happened in the past. And that's interesting and fascinating. And maybe that's hinting at perhaps a war breaking out in the future of this show. So yeah, I think it's set things up for season 2 pretty well by getting rid of some of the side stories and some of the side characters as well, it seems. But I've touched on Orlando Bloom's origins, let's go even further into them. Right from I think episode 1, maybe even episode 2, it's obvious that he's a fairy, or at least half fairy. He's got 2 scars on his back. It's revealed very early on that he's got 2 scars on his back. In a world where there are characters with wings, it's pretty easy to put 2 and 2 together that he used to have wings, now he doesn't, hence the scars. So of course he's a fairy. They really badly telegraphed that, and when they revealed that that was the case, they reveal it in a way that it's meant to be shocking and surprising, but it's not, because we've already figured it out, like right in the early goings of this season. So why would you poorly telegraph that and then act like it's a huge shocking moment? It's just not good at all, and that goes for a lot of the surprises and twists in here. They've established them early on, practically revealing the answer less than subtly, and then they still want you to be surprised when they actually give you the answers. It just doesn't work. And yeah, Carnival Row, very critical of it. I did watch all of it. It was, again, it's not bad, it's just not good. There's a lot of really bad things about it though, a lot of really good things about it though. I am going to continue watching it when it comes out. Season 2 is on the way next year, I believe. Hopefully it gets better. I don't think it can get worse. So yeah, I am hopeful for the future. And yada yada yada, I'm Grant Burton. You can go and subscribe. You know the drill now. Thanks for watching this review.